Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Educational AD Podcast and our special Tuesday segments featuring experts from across the world of athletics. Before we get going, we want to acknowledge our partners, the Florida Coaches Coalition, the Global Community of Women in High School Sports, Vital Signs Wall of Fame, and We Coach. These are four great organizations that you should really add to your network. And now, please don't hit that fast forward button. Stay with us for the next 3 minutes. I want to tell you about my sponsors. These are all companies that I used as an athletic director. You should be using them too. Here we go. We want to say thanks to Gipper for their support of the podcast. Gipper's the official social media graphics solution for us. And if you go to Gipper.com, their team is going to show you how to create world-class marketing content for your school's social media channel. Your kids are on social media, and you should be there celebrating your teams and promoting your athletes. Gipper's used and trusted by over 3,000 athletic programs across the country, and it's professional graphic design made simple. Go to Gipper.com to get started. We also want to say thank you to Hometown Ticketing. Hometown is the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. I don't think I need to say anything more. Go to hometownticketing.com. Let their team help you set up and sell your tickets online. It's digital ticketing that offers more. We also want to say thank you to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Go to their website, vitalsignswalloffame.com. Check out their interactive touchscreen video consoles. It's a great way to showcase your school record boards, your school's Hall of Fame, or simply tell your school's diverse history, share your proudest moments, and recognize your top role models. That's vitalsignswalloffame.com. You really need to check them out. We also want to say thank you to Home Campus. Home Campus is the official high school and state association management platform for us. It's also your one-stop platform for things like student-athlete eligibility and clearance, scheduling, helping parents upload physicals and other forms. As an AD, I used Home Campus every single day, and it was just fantastic, and you're going to love it too. Go to homecampus.com to find out more information. We want to thank Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and schedule a live web demo to see their score tables and their score boards in action. Their products not only generate income for your department, they also create the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. That's sidelineinteractive.com. We want to say thanks to Huddle for their support. Go to huddle.com and change the way you see the game. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school, and our coaches just loved the tools that Huddle provided that let them coach our kids at the highest level. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, and turn your school into a Huddle school. We want to say thanks to Snap Mobile. Snap Mobile is the company. Snap Raise is the platform. Go to snapraise.com/EDAD. Check out the #1 online fundraising platform. It's hands down the best one out there. They even have a program where they will send you your funding before you actually do your fundraiser. Nobody else does that. Go to snapraise.com. Check out Snap Manage, Snap Store, Snap Connect, and their other great platforms. You're also automatically entered into a $1,500 drawing on your next Snap Raise fundraiser. That's snapraise.com. And we want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your parents or your student athletes, you're really missing out. Athletic directors already hear back from the complainers. Athletic Surveys will connect you with that small group, but they'll also connect you with the 98% of your parents and student athletes that support your program. And that's tremendously valuable data to have when you're talking with a frustrated parent or your principal or your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. Let them create a custom survey that'll let you take the pulse of your parents and your student athletes. That's athleticsurveys.com. Welcome back, everyone, to another segment on the Educational AD Podcast. This is our special Tuesday super team of athletic professionals, and very excited to have back my good friend, John Sgromolo. Regular listeners to the podcast recognize that name. If you're new, John's a longtime athletic director here in the state of Florida, very active at the state and at the national level, and he is the director of athletics at St. John Country Day School, an independent school here in Florida. John, welcome back to the Educational AD Podcast.
Thanks so much, Jake. Always good to be on the show.
Well, again, last time we were on, you kind of talked about, the transition from your previous position, longtime county AD for Clay County schools, multiple high schools, multiple middle schools, and maybe some differences in becoming the athletic director at a smaller independent school. What do you got for our listeners this time on the Educational AD Podcast?
Well, Jake, today I wanted to talk a lot about sportsmanship. I think that sportsmanship, in a way, in interscholastic athletics has become a buzzword. But what does it really mean, and what does it mean to put it into action? And I think that's one thing I wanted to discuss with all of our athletic directors across the nation and across the world listening to the Educational AD Podcast. So the first thing is there's really three things that I want to talk about with sportsmanship. And two of these are challenge questions for you as an athletic administrator. And then the third is a actual implementation technique that you can implement. And I would hope that you would implement at your school. So the first thing that I want to bring up is, when do you talk about sportsmanship as an athletic director? Do you only talk about it at your preseason coaches meeting? Do you only talk about it when someone gets ejected? Do you only talk about it when there's an award that you're up for and you want to get nominated? The key to instill things like sportsmanship in your athletic department is constant contact. Your coaches, just like your mission statement or your vision statement, your coaches must constantly be reminded that this is what we are about. This is important to us, and this is how we're going to act and how we're going to carry ourselves. So ask yourself that. When is the last time I've talked about sportsmanship with my coaches in my athletic department? The second question that I wanted to bring up with our athletic directors is, in sportsmanship situations, good, bad, right, and wrong. I got my master's degree from the University of Missouri, a program in athletic leadership and positive coaching. And one of the things in our master's program we always talked about was catch people doing something right. And I think as an athletic director, when it comes to sportsmanship, when you do see student athletes having good sportsmanship, is that celebrated? Is that recognized? Do you stop and use that as a coachable moment for your department? So the question is, in sportsmanship scenarios, good, bad, right, wrong, and different, the question is this: as an AD, how do you react to it? Do you fly off the handle and say, we can't have kids getting ejected? But then you go back to the first question: when do you talk about it? If you never talk about it and a student athlete gets ejected, and now all of a sudden as a leader, you're flying off the handle, you're sending a mixed message to your coaches. I never really knew that it was a big deal. So how you react to it is important. I would also say for our friends here in the state of Florida, one of the things when I was a county AD that I challenged my athletic directors to do is, depending on the scenario, sorry, I got the bell there. Depending on the scenario, when is the school punishment for an ejection more severe than the state's punishment? I think you really send a message to your athletic department of zero tolerance when it comes to bad behavior. Maybe the state only gives a basketball player, one game for, cursing at an official or whatever it may be. But what happens when the department sets higher standards than the FHSAA, or the department sets higher standards than the school disciplinary action? It takes courage to step out and make that type of a choice. But at the end of the day, as we all know, our student athletes are only going to be athletes for so long. The lessons that they learn through having great sportsmanship are way more important than the wins and losses they'll have on the field. And the final thing that I wanted to share with you today about sportsmanship is something that I learned from Flagler College when I was a student athlete. I was a baseball player. I played for 4 years there. And we did something at Flagler before every home game where there was a PA system called the game environment statement. And the game environment statement does a few different things. One, it gives student athletes the opportunity to speak publicly, which is a valuable tool. Two, it sets the expectation for everyone in attendance as to what is the sportsmanship expectations. Three, it extends an olive branch to the other school because what you do is you have a home student athlete read the first paragraph, you have a visiting student athlete read the second paragraph. So what you're saying is, and this is what the game environment goes like. I read it at Flagler, so I kind of have it memorized. Welcome to tonight's varsity basketball game between the St. John's Spartans and the Clay High Blue Devils. We see this court as an extension of the classroom environment where we learn dignity and respect for others. The St. John's athlete passes it to the Blue Devil athlete. The Blue Devil athlete then reads, "We request your cooperation in tonight's contest by supporting our participants and officials in a positive manner. We'd ask that you would refrain from any profanity or discrediting actions at either school, the officials, or other fans. Thank you for your continued support, and we hope you enjoy the game." I've single-handedly seen that statement disarm parents. It usually is a big round of applause. The kids will applaud their teammates for getting on the mic. And it really sets the expectation, and it's really putting great sportsmanship to action.
Boy, you probably saw me grinning while you were sharing that story. And I don't take credit for inventing this, but I did exactly the same thing, and I've got the video to prove it. I think it was taken back in 2013, maybe earlier than that at school I was at. We crafted a version of the FHSAA sportsmanship. We invited an athlete from the other team. We shared microphones. We did it for every single home game, volleyball, football, soccer, you name it. And it was very, very well received. And you left out one little point. The officials loved it because we talked about respecting the officials, and it's not why we did it. It was just a nice little byproduct, but we turned every single 50-50 call into at least a 51-49 call in our favor, just because, we were showing it. And I'm sure you can agree with this. We were talking the talk, but we also walked the walk. Our kids, our coaches, and our parents bought in. And if there was an incident, we definitely responded. And I'm going to go ahead and jump on what you said about how often is the school's penalty more severe than the state penalty. When I was at McClay, the last school I was at before I retired, we had great sportsmanship, but I had heard about that idea, and I went to our coaches and I said, "What do you think about this? If we had an ejection?" And long story short, our athletic policy, whatever the state handed down, 1 game, 2 games, 5 games, we doubled. And we communicated it with our student athletes. We communicated with our parents. I only had to use it once. And the kid that had gotten ejected, number one, it was somebody that we would never have dreamed would have gotten ejected. It was a girl basketball player, just lost it, got in a fight and everything. She so owned it. She was so apologetic. She was so remorseful. The state handed down the state handed down 2 games. We doubled it to 4, but we ended up knocking off 1 game and kept it at 3 because she was so remorseful and owned it. So great ideas. Thanks for sharing that. Okay.
And just one last thing to bring it in for a landing is, I every year I ask this question at our coaches meeting, usually in the beginning, and I'll reiterate it. But in the beginning, the first thing I ask, especially when you're at a new school, is I have a serious question to ask you. And if you know the answer, I'd like for you to raise your hand. When is it okay as a coach to get ejected? And I get a couple of chuckles, but very, very quickly the room gets ultra silent. because the answer is it's never okay to get ejected as a coach. The second you get ejected as a coach, you are rewriting the societal and team expectation of what is accepted with your athletes. And I think that it's one of those things that as athletic administrators, you have to be proactive when it comes to sportsmanship. And too many of us get reactive about it. But the more proactive we are, the less incidents we're going to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've heard me say this many times. And again, it's not something I invented, but it's something I heard a long time ago and adopted. Everything we see at a school, everything we see at your school or someone else's school, everything you see at my school, it's either coached or it's allowed. Now, which one is it? So when that coach gets ejected, is that your program? Is that how you teach your program, or are you allowing that to happen? Same thing with the kids. Okay, it's either coached or allowed. Great stuff. I love it.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jake.
Okay. Um, Listeners, our guest has been John Sgromolo. He's the director of athletics at St. John Country Day School here in Florida. Tremendous background in athletics. He's considered a national leader on a variety of topics. If John, if one of our listeners wants to add you to their network, and listeners, you really should, what's the best way they can get a hold of you?
Sure. So there's a few different ways. Very active on Twitter at Coach Sgromolo, SGROM as in money, OLO. Feel free to give me a follow, send me a message. You can email me at sjsgromolo@sjcds.net. I'm also on LinkedIn. That's another place to connect. And I love to connect. So, send me a message. Whatever you want to do, reach out. I've met some really good friends through the Educational AD podcast. So anytime, feel free to reach out.
Well, John, we appreciate you sharing with our listeners and want to wish you and the Spartan teams all the best as probably going to be transitioning from winter into spring sports when this plays. So thanks again.
Thanks, Jake.
For our listeners, we do this segment every single week, and we also upload the Zoom recordings to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. Of course, we appreciate you listening. Come back next Tuesday for another great leader, and just about every day on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time. Always a great time with John Sgromolo. Make sure you add him to your network. Before we go, we do want to acknowledge our sponsors. These are companies that I used as an athletic director. You should be using them too. We want to say thanks to Home Campus. As an AD, I used Home Campus every single day. Student athlete eligibility, scheduling, you name it. Go to homecampus.com to get signed up. Want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. You've heard me say one of the best purchases I ever made as an AD was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com to find out how they can help you. Want to say thanks to Gipper. Gipper's the official social media graphics solution for us. And if you go to Gipper.com, their team will show you how you can start creating world-class content on your school's social media channel. So easy, even I can do it. That's Gipper.com. We want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing. Hometown is the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and to colleges. Go to hometownticketing.com to get started. We want to say thank you to Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your parents, your student athletes, your coaches, you're really missing out. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey for you and your school. That's athleticsurveys.com. We want to thank Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle. As an AD, we were a Huddle school. Go to huddle.com to get started. We want to say thank you to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Go to their website, vitalsignswalloffame.com. Check out their interactive touchscreen video consoles. Mention the podcast, they'll give you a nice discount. And we want to say thanks to Snap Raise. Have you ever used a fundraiser and got basically nothing in return? Go to snapraise.com/EDAD. Hands down, the best online fundraiser out there. We used it at our school. Tremendous success, and you'll love it too. Go to snapraise.com/EDAD. Once again, thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time on the Educational AD Podcast.